Hi everybody, good afternoon. Welcome to the post-lunch session. Um, I would request all of you to keep posting your questions. It will help me structure my presentation. I do have a presentation, but I don't necessarily need to stick to the flow. I would rather keep this an engaging conversation. So keep your questions flowing in, please. Basically, I'm here today to share my experience on leveraging personalization and A/B testing at scale. I've been in different industries. I've been lucky enough to do this, for Make My Trip and Travel, for ShopClues in retail, and now for Max Life Insurance in the insurance sector. And I will just sort of share whatever experiences I have while you're trying to achieve personalization and A/B testing. It's more of a mindset and a culture that you got to build in your organization. It's really not something which a single person can achieve on his or her on his or her own. So let's get started. We're going to cover the following things today. We will start with digital transformation and evolution. You will hear these terms loosely. Most of the top management folks love to use the word digital transformation and what it entails. We will demystify some of the myths. Then we'll get into introduction of A/B testing, pitfalls, and a case study. We'll do the same for personalization, introduction, pitfalls, and case study. Then I will like to take you through the solutions architecture and segmentation at MaxLife that we've created for ourselves, and how we've leveraged A/B testing and personalization for business impact. Although I am in the marketing function in the organization, but I roll up to business, and hence have a P&L responsibility and accountability. So, whatever I'm going to showcase will be with an eventual business outcome. These are not just case study material initiatives or projects. I'm going to tie them up to business outcomes as we progress. Okay. Digital transformation. Let's get on to a revolution and do digital transformation. This is the biggest myth. Digital transformation is not really a revolution. It's more of an evolution. People plus process plus structure is always going to be greater than data and technology put together, right? So often, companies take the shortcut route of transforming themselves by buying some enterprise solutions, building a technology stack, and they hope to change everything overnight, right? Often the technology head in the organization will have a mandate to revamp the entire or digitize the entire organization in about 6 months or a 1 month time. It's not often the case, right? Because it's a long journey, and hence you need to invest in people, process, and structure, and then look at technology platforms and data, because they will always be bigger impact items in the long run. So to summarize this, evolution works and revolution stink. When you're talking about transforming your organization, always set expectations correctly, that it's an evolution and not a revolution. So what will happen if you buy swanky enterprise solutions and tools in your company and nobody knows how to use them, right? It will be pretty much similar to giving a Harley Davidson to a toddler. The toddler will never know how to ride Harley Davidson, and hence the mistake is not of the child. The mistake is of the person who's given a Harley Davidson to a toddler. So invest in the people process before you start thinking about buying technology platforms. Okay, so we will start with what is A/B testing. A/B testing, as you must have heard this term a lot of times, is nothing but trying out two alternatives that are in front of you, and in a unbiased way figure out the impact on outcomes. So the simplest A/B test that you can create is create two versions. For instance, you want to try two versions of the buy now call to action button. Right, you're just changing the colors and the look and feel of the button. What you will do is split the entire audience that's coming onto the platform into two buckets, 50-50%, and this is done basis random sampling. If random sampling is not followed, the A/B test is often useless, right? And then you measure outcomes. The outcomes could be conversion rate. The outcomes could be CTRs. You have to define your outcomes before you begin the A/B test, and then measure them. And that's how you are able to conclude which version is better. So why should you A/B test? Why should I not, when I already know that I have a hypothesis and there are high chances of the hypothesis going right? Why should I not directly give that as a requirement to my development team and make them quickly take the release to production? There are several reasons. A/B testing is low risk and it helps you make quick and dirty modifications. Often hypotheses can go wrong, right? So it's even if you look at probability, so there are more chances that about 50% of your hypothesis will go wrong. But a development cycle, let's say, takes about 2 weeks, and then there's testing, and so there's always opportunity cost of taking an idea into production environment, and hence A/B testing removes that risk. You can always test multiple variations at the same time and see what works. You're able to improve engagement, reduce bounce rates, improve conversion, ROI, and profitability for your organization. What A/B test does, and I've experienced personally in my career, is that it empowers marketing with very little dependence on technology. So if you have a decent solution to implement A/B tests, you don't really need technology. A marketer can set up A/B tests, measure their impact, and once you've proven a hypothesis, then you give a formal requirement to the technology team to take it forward. You can help A/B testing to improve NPS, stickiness, and buying experience. Goes without saying. However, there are several pitfalls of A/B testing, and whenever you're planning to do this at scale or do this in an organization where there is a lot of opportunity cost involved of trying out ideas which don't work. So there are a few things that I would want you to keep in mind. First is you have to have an optimization roadmap. Right? You cannot just set up an A/B test without knowing what you want to achieve, without clearly defining what will be your success criteria, what will mean that your hypothesis was proven false or true, right? So the roadmap is more important than setting up the A/B test. Using unbalanced traffic, right? So what if one version of your A/B test is shown to search traffic and another version of your A/B is shown to display traffic? The two will never be the same, right? The behavior of a search traffic will be very different from the behavior of a display campaign traffic, and hence it is imperative that when you're dividing your audiences to showing multiple versions of an A/B, you have the same source of traffic, and they are split basis random sampling. Testing too many elements together, and often we get carried away with the excitement of taking multiple changes together. However, the key fundamental of an A/B is between two versions, making just one change between version A and version B, what is the impact on outcomes? If you have multiple changes at the same time, you will never be able to figure out which of those changes actually resulted in an improvement in funnel conversion, right? So it's always better to break down your changes into multiple A/B tests and do them iteratively one after the other. And the fourth is ignoring statistical significance. right? So your A/B test needs to be statistically significant. What sample size is the minimum sample size that is required for an A/B to be significant is available material online. You can just search for it to figure out depending on the amount of traffic, the quantum of traffic that you're getting, what will be a significant sample size. But it is imperative to ensure that this size is significant. Okay, so we'll quickly move on to some case studies. I just have a question that I'd like to take. How do you find the correct path hypothesis for A/B test for maximum ROI? This is by Samay Salunke. So, Samay, very pertinent question. You'll always have multiple hypotheses being generated in the organization, and often the hypothesis that is tested first would be the hypothesis that is coming from the senior most official in the organization, right? So, hence, if you are the marketing manager or you are the product manager who is responsible for setting up these A/B tests, what you need to do is quantify the impact that it is likely to get if the hypothesis is proven true, right? So you have to keep certain assumptions. For instance, you're changing a banner, right? So you need to have, before you start the A/B test, you need to figure out assumptions of, okay, if this banner is better than the other banner, what is the lift in CTR that I'm going to get? And eventually that CTR uplift will translate into what incremental leads or business for the generation, for the business, right? So it's important to quantify the impact of each A/B test hypothesis that you have in your pipeline before you prioritize them. Generating A/B test hypothesis is another ball game altogether. There are various methodologies available. You could use user surveys to take feedback from users on your platform as to what do they like, what do they not like. You could look at heat maps. You could look at click maps. You could look at visitor recordings where you actually see recordings of users trying to navigate through your websites. Right. So these are some of the methodologies you use to generate hypotheses. You quantify impact and then prioritize them one after the other. So, okay, I'll move on to the case study. So this case study is going to focus on wall monkeys, right? So this is a website for wall stickers, wall decals, right? And this is how their website used to look before they made changes to the website. Right? Now it looks like a plain and simple website with imagery in the background, which looks like a beach, right? And there is a desk table and a search bar on top, right, with the navigation. So if when you're wanting to generate hypothesis, you could look at the heat maps, and hence the heat map of this website could look like this. Now, what is striking from this heat map is that there's too much focus on the search bar. You see, it's deep red, right? There's also a deep red on my cart, and the main tagline of which says "Choose from our vast collection of wall decals and murals." There's hardly any heat on the background image that is being used on the website. So probably there are two hypotheses that come out of this heat map, at least for me. Of course, they could be multiple for multiple people. The first is that the background image of the beach is not working. Probably the context is not right. We are trying to sell wall stickers, and we have a picture of a beach. Probably they don't go together. And the second is that search is a preferred element for searching for all wall stickers on the website, and hence we need to ensure that search becomes even more prominent and works effectively. Often search fails when you're searching for something and you don't get relevant results. So the front end and the back end both have to be put in place. So the A/B test that the company tried out was this next screen, right? So they made two changes. They made the change in the background image to depict the kind of wall stickers that you could buy, right, on your walls. And they made the search bar more prominent, got it in the middle of the web page, right? And so these were the two changes. The first change, and they were both A/B tested separately one by one. The first change of image resulted in 27% higher conversion, and the second change of search bar alone, moving the search bar from top to middle and highlighting it slightly more, increased the conversion by 550%. Right, so it is incredible to see the amount of business impact that small A/B tests like these can have, and hence it's important to continuously generate hypotheses and prioritize them basis expected business impact. Okay. So there's a question which says, how do we estimate the CTR lift here? How do we calculate targeted quantifiable metric? Okay, so for instance, in the case of Wallmonkeys, the success criteria that they had was conversion, right? They were only looking at if there are 100 users coming on their website, how many actually buy, right? That was their success criteria for the A/B test that they were uh, creating. However, for in your particular case, maybe CTR is the only metric that you want to drive on homepage, right? And hence you could measure CTR of call to actions or banners that you have on your website, and measurement is pretty simple. You could have an analytics tool like Google Analytics. It comes for free, the basic version. You can implement it on your website and measure the CTR of both the variations that you're testing out. And it's pretty easy to measure impact. What is important is what is the KPI that you're chasing while setting up an A/B test. I hope that answers your question. Okay, so we'll move forward. Uh, what is personalization, right? Personalization in today's age is not a new age topic. It has become hygiene, right? So what the Amazons of the world have done is that users today are now expecting brands and websites and products to be personalized. The communication and conversation to be personalized basis whatever the user has shared with you so far, right? This is a basic hygiene, and it is no longer a wow factor, right? So if your brand or website is not able to effectively personalize your communication, your products, your content, creative to specific users, then you're losing out. Um it's no longer a case of winning the race. It's a case of losing out in the race, because almost all major brands have already taken personalization seriously, right? Why should you personalize? There are two customer researches that I wanted to share with you. On the left is a research from the banking industry, right? And what this research says is that while you're joining a bank, almost 28% of the respondents say that personalization plays a very important role. When leaving a bank, 23% say if the experience is not personalized, uh, there are high chances of me leaving a bank. While deepening an existing bank relationship, again, 30% of the respondents say that personalization plays a very important role. Right. So this is in the banking industry. On the right, we move on to a survey that was done for retail. Right. Again, you say that consumers are more likely to buy from a retailer if they recognize them by their name, if they recommend options basis their past purchase, know their purchase history, and offer any of these three options, right? So again, two very different industries. They have no relation to each other whatsoever. But consumers today are expecting this as a hygiene. They expect you to remember the information that they've already shared with the brand, and they expect you to personalize all your experience going forward basis that information. Okay, please keep your questions flowing in. I will be answering them as and when I get time. Okay. There are some pitfalls of personalization that I wanted to share. It's not all hunky dory. That you personalize everything that you know about the user, and your business turns around. It doesn't work like that. So the first pitfall is sharing everything you know, right? So you might have taken your user's name, age, gender, shopping preferences, but it doesn't necessarily mean that whatever you know about them you have to share with them in every communication, right? So every time they get an email from you, you share all the information that they shared with you, or every time they come on their website, you share all their information, only the ones that matter, right? So that's where the tact comes in. Uh, Again, the second is tactless retargeting, right? So just this was a complaint by a consumer against Amazon, right? On Twitter, it says, "Dear Amazon, I believe a toilet seat because I needed one. I bought a toilet seat because I needed one. Necessity, not desire. I do not collect them. I am not a toilet seat addict. No matter how tempting you email me, I am not going to think, oh, go on then. Let's just buy one more toilet seat. I'll treat myself." Right. So what Amazon was doing was it was retargeting a consumer who had bought a toilet seat with another toilet seat ad. Right. So obviously it doesn't make sense. So there needs to be science behind how you're retargeting users and what products are you retargeting them with. Profit over purpose, right? This is the biggest pitfall of personalization. The minute a business head gets sniff off the fact that personalization has been able to increase CTR by 30% or improve business by 20%, they would want you to personalize everything for business gains, right? And as marketeers, the biggest pitfall we have is forget the whole purpose of personalization. We started personalization so that we get closer to the consumer or the customer, right? Business is always an outcome, but business cannot be the only outcome. Right? So we always have to keep our users at the center of everything that we're doing, and business is always going to be an outcome. Right? Fourth is frantic frequency. So if you're going to message your customer every 5 minutes or every 2 hours, right? Maybe 4 or 5 messages in a day. If they don't come back to the items that they left in their cart, I think they're going to uninstall your app or never visit your platform again. Right? So, of course, as businesses, we need to remind our consumers that you have a product left in your cart which you've not bought. Maybe go back to them with offers or why should they buy now versus delay their purchase. But the frequency needs to be clearly set. It cannot be crazy, right? And also using first names everywhere. Just because you know their first name, you know first name of your consumer doesn't mean that you will use it everywhere on every platform. There is some, everybody would want to keep their privacy to a certain extent. Okay. So there's another question that we have. What if we allow site visitor to customize sections as per his choice? Something like Google did with iGoogle few years ago. Okay, so what you're saying is you want to make a DIY website where the company does not decide the UI, the consumers do. It's a great test, but there are other ways and means of taking feedback from consumers on whether your UI is working or not. Right. So as a business, you can always figure out what are the 4 or 5 personas or 10 personas that you're targeting, right? Which are your core TG, and then customize your website to their needs. Of course, maybe what you would want to do is have a different website completely for every user that's coming on your platform. But it gets challenging when you have millions and millions of users coming on your platform every month. So it's a great idea to let the user customize the website basis their own choices. But obviously this is tech heavy, right? So you need to weigh out the pros and cons of what's possible and what's not. Okay, moving forward. So this is a case study on personalization. You must have heard of the tool called Optimizely. It's a personalization tool itself. And this is their website, right? So when they already know that this user that is coming onto my website is an Adidas employee, right? Then why not customize your communication, your imagery, uh, specifically tailored to Adidas, right? Similarly, if they already know that you are from the travel sector, right? Why not customize your banner and communication to that user? So this is a B2B example where a business is personalizing experiences for other businesses that are coming on their website, and the same can be used in a B2C environment as well. So what simple change like this resulted in 1.5% increase in engagement, 113% increase in conversion to the solutions page, and 117% increase in conversion to their account creation process. Right? So very simple, but making experience for returning users on your website as contextual as possible. So this is like low hanging fruit for any business which is operating today. Okay, let me look at the list of questions quickly. So Anmol asks, A/B testing becomes difficult while working with agencies, freelancers. Any correct way around that? Okay, so see, Anmol, when you're outsourcing A/B testing to your partners and agencies, what is necessary is that there is a person overlooking the hypothesis creation and the A/B test setup process. Because if you set up the A/B test incorrectly, the outcome is 100 times going to be incorrect. Right? So setting up the hypothesis, deciding what will be your success criteria, and the final setup of an A/B test. This is very, very critical before you jump to outcomes. And hence, you always need somebody who's going to be the project manager, who understands how an A/B test is set up, and overseeing the operation. So you can outsource execution, but the project management has to be centralized. Okay, so I'll quickly run through my remaining slides. This is the solutions architecture that we have at Max Life Insurance today. Right? We have a CRM platform. It's called CRM Next. We have an analytics platform, which is Google Analytics, Google Tag Manager for collecting data from our website on desktop and mobile website. We have Hotjar for capturing surveys, heat maps, visitor recordings, and Google Optimize for setting up A/B tests and personalizations. Right. In all of this information then feeds into our advertising platforms, which are Facebook, Google Ads, and so on. Right. So this is a solution architecture, a simple solution architecture. It's not overcomplicated. Just to give you a sense of what is required at the back end for you to be able to execute this. A couple of examples of what we were able to achieve at MaxLife, through basic personalization. We personalized our homepage banner for anybody who was in the process of buying a term insurance plan, depending on where they left in the journey. So this particular user created a quote, customized a quote, and created a quote, but did not fill personal details. Right. So there were 3 steps left and 2 steps completed. So what we do is we just re-emphasize it back to the user saying, "Hi Samir, your family isn't protected yet. Cover amount of 1 crore at just 1475 monthly selected, and you've created a quote, but there are 3 more steps left. Proceed to buy." Also, if you've created a quote, there is a e-quote number that is generated, and often it becomes difficult for consumers to then go into their SMS or email and search for the quote number because they want to proceed to wherever they had left, right? So just show them their e-quote number upfront. All of this can be done through storing data in the cookie local storage, right? This basic change resulted in a conversion rate increase by 15% for us. Then this is a simple A/B test that we conducted on quote page customization. So this is our quote page. On the left-hand side, you see is the earlier version, and on the right-hand side, you see is the A/B tested version, right? In the earlier version, you had multiple tabs. You had choose the best plan, right, and all the elements that the user could play around with, life cover, till what age do you want to cover yourself, premium, payment term, and all of that. The only change that we made on the right side was started addressing the user by their name, right, and we divided the journey into 4 steps. So we said this is step 1 of 4. where you're customizing your code. So Sameer customized your term plan, right? And we added an urgency message depending on the user profile. So now, for instance, my birthday is approaching in the next 30 days. So every time your birthday approaches, your term insurance premiums go up significantly, right? So it's saying out loud to me, purchase before your birthday and save more on your premiums. So there is urgency to complete the purchase as soon as possible, and there is contextualization. So this simple AV resulted in a conversion rate improvement of 20% for us. Okay. So I'm just going to take maybe the last question. Yes. So the platform we have is Google Analytics 360. You're correct in asking that question. You can take the free version also. You don't necessarily have to take a paid version of Google Analytics. Depends on your requirement. Okay. So, guys, I'm at the end of my presentation. Thank you so much. You could get in touch with me. These are my coordinates. Thanks a lot for your time. Have a great day.
Thank you so much, Sameer. It was such an enriching talk, and it was very informative for everyone present here.